My name is Matty, and I am 54 years old. Today, I stood in a beautiful ballroom watching my only daughter Sophia glow with happiness. I had saved for 2 years to buy this dress, a pale lavender chiffon, just for her wedding. In that moment, filled with hope and love, I had no idea that in less than an hour, the man she was about to marry would pour a bucket of humiliation over me in front of 300 people. Before I share how a day meant for love turned into my worst nightmare and how it was utterly transformed in just 5 minutes, I would be so grateful if you could let me know where you are joining me from today in the comments. If stories of resilience and quiet strength mean something to you, please consider subscribing. It truly helps me keep sharing these chapters of life with you. Now let me take you back to the beginning of that day. The morning of the wedding was all soft light and softer emotions. I stayed in a small, cozy inn not far from the grand seaside venue. Sophia came to my room at 7 already in her silk robe, her hair in curlers. We sat on the edge of the bed with 2 cups of terrible inn coffee and just looked at each other. She took my hands, her eyes shiny. "Mum, you look beautiful already." "Honey, you're the one who's going to take everyone's breath away," I said, my voice thick. We talked about silly things about her father, about how he would have puffed out his chest so big his buttons would pop. Then I brought out the small velvet box. Inside were the amethyst drop earrings. They were simple, a little old-fashioned, with tiny silver leaves cradling the tear-shaped stones. They were the only piece of jewellery my own mother had left me from her mother before her. "I want you to have these today, Sophia. They're for strength. Your grandmother always said amethyst was for clear thinking and protection, and more than that, they're a reminder of a love that lasted, a real one." She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I'll wear them and think of you and Grandma all day. I love you, Mum. Thank you for everything, for all of it." That everything hung in the air between us, heavy and sweet. It was the middle of the night, baking shifts, so I could be home when she got from school. It was the handmade Halloween costumes, the repaired prom dresses, the quiet prayers over hospital bills. She knew, she saw it. In that moment, I felt like every single sacrifice had been worth it to see this woman, my daughter, so full of joy. I arrived at the Kennebunkport venue an hour before the ceremony. The place was stunning, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the rocky Atlantic coast. White linens, crystal glasses, floral arrangements so tall and elaborate they looked like small trees. My sister Brenda and her husband Frank were already there. Brenda, looking uncomfortable in a sequined dress, a size too small, Frank's booming laugh echoing a little too loudly in the polished space. And then I saw them, the Tates. Eleanor Tate was a vision of calculated elegance in dove-grey silk. She floated over air, kissed my cheek, and her hands immediately went to the lace shawl I'd knitted myself, draped over my shoulders. "Oh, Matilda, how charming. Such intricate work. It's so interesting to see handmade pieces these days." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her husband Richard gave my hand a single firm pump, his gaze already scanning the room for more important connections. "Matty, good of you to come." Then came Cameron, handsome, sharp-jawed in a tuxedo that probably cost more than my car. He gave me a quick, distracted hug. "Matty, you made it." "Great." His eyes fell on the small wooden crate at my feet. I'd brought 36 small jars of my lemon lavender marmalade and shortbread cookies, tied with lavender ribbon as wedding favours, a piece of my heart to share. "What's this?" he asked, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Just a little something from me for the guests," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Hearty. Very homey," he said, the word dropping like a stone. "The staff can handle it." He snapped his fingers, and a young waiter scurried over to take the crate, handling it like it might contain something volatile. I felt a hot flush creep up my neck. Homey. It was a dismissal wrapped in a bland compliment. I saw Sophia then being shepherded by a coordinator. She looked like a dream in her gown, but her smile when she saw me was tight, strained. She gave me a small wave before disappearing. The hope in my heart, so full that morning, developed its first tiny crack. The ceremony was a blur of violin music and vows. Sophia looked beautiful, but her voice when she said, "I do," was quiet, almost a whisper. Cameron's was loud, confident. During the cocktail hour, I stuck close to Brenda and Frank, feeling like a duck among swans. The Tates held court, their laughter ringing with a polished, hollow sound. Dinner was served, speeches began. Richard Tate took the microphone and spoke for 15 minutes about the Tate family legacy, about Cameron's achievements at Harvard, and his rapid ascent in finance. It was a resume, not a toast. When he finished, there was polite, appreciative applause from his side of the room. Then it was my turn. My knees were jelly as I walked to the podium. I clutived the index card in my hand, my carefully written notes, now seeming foolish. I looked out at the sea of faces, many indifferent, some politely expectant. I found Sophia. She gave me a small, encouraging nod. I cleared my throat. For those who don't know me, I'm Mattie, Sophia's mum. My voice wavered, then found its footing. I won't talk about legacies or achievements. I want to talk about my daughter, the little girl who used to put band-aids on broken toy trucks and sing to her goldfish. The teenager who stayed up all night studying not because she had to, but because she wanted to understand. The woman who has more compassion in her little finger than most people have in their entire being. I saw Sophia's eyes fill with tears. I continued forgetting the card. Being her mother has been the greatest privilege of my life. It hasn't always been easy, but every long night, every worry, every moment was a gift because it was for her. Sophia, you taught me about strength. You taught me about love. And seeing you today, my heart is so full it could burst. My voice broke then with genuine emotion. To Sophia and Cameron, may your life together be filled with the kind of real, deep, enduring joy that comes from kindness, from respect, and from never, ever taking each other for granted. There was a moment of silence then, a wave of warm, heartfelt applause, especially from my side of the room. I saw dabbing eyes. I felt a surge of relief and love. As I stepped down, floating on that feeling, the accident happened. A young waiter, moving quickly between tables with a small silver bucket meant for clearing used napkins and lemon wedges, turned just as I passed. I bumped his arm. The bucket, half full of damp, twisted napkins, ice melt and rinds, tipped. Cold, murky water sloshed over the rim and onto the delicate chiffon skirt of my dress, leaving a dark, wet stain. "Oh, I'm so sorry!" the waiter gasped, horrified. "It's okay, it's all right, really," I said quickly, mortified. I bent down, trying to blot the stain with a clean napkin from a table. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me. Heat flooded my face. Then Cameron's voice, amplified by the microphone he'd just taken, cut through the murmurs. "Well, folks, it looks like my new mother-in-law couldn't wait to dive into the dirty work." He chuckled. The sound was brittle in the silent room. Classic. Don't worry, everyone, she's used to it. A few forced laughs trickled from his friend's table. I froze, bent over, wishing the floor would swallow me. But he wasn't done. He strode over, that smirk firmly in place. He took the bucket right from the trembling waiter's hands. "Here, Mattie, let me help you out." And before I could straighten up, before I could even process what was happening, he upended the remaining contents of the bucket, the soggy, discarded mess, onto the floor directly at my feet. The cold, filthy splash soaked the hem of my dress and my lavender shoes completely. "Consider that a blessing for good luck in your endeavours, Mattie," he said, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. The silence that followed was absolute. It was a physical weight, crushing and cold. I slowly straightened my back. I could feel the water seep into my shoes. I saw the kaleidoscope of expressions: shock, pity, amusement, disgust. I looked at Sophia. Her face was a mask of crimson humiliation, her eyes wide with horror, but her lips were pressed together. She did not move. She did not speak. In that moment, something inside me broke. But it wasn't a shattering. It was a quiet, definitive snap, like the closing of a door. The pain was so intense it bypassed tears, bypassed anger. It settled into a cold, clear stillness. I looked down at my ruined shoes I'd saved for, and I thought of my husband's hands rough from work holding mine. I thought of stirring jam at 3 a.m, the quiet hum of the kitchen, my only company. This was what it all came to be a punchline for a smug boy in an expensive suit. I lifted my head. I looked directly at Cameron. My eyes were dry, my hands were not shaking, I did not say a word. That silence stretched second after agonizing second. It was the loudest sound I have ever heard. Cameron's smirk began to falter under my gaze. He shifted on his feet. Eleanor Tate made a small, strangled noise. Richard coughed. Then a chair scraped back. All heads turned. A man rose from the Tates' own family table. He was in his 60s, with a full head of distinguished silver hair and a bearing that commanded attention without effort. He was Jacob Henderson, a guest I'd been briefly introduced to as a family friend. His face, usually genial, was etched with stern disapproval. He walked without haste to the space between the head table and where I stood. He turned to face the room. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, deep, and carried to every corner without a microphone. What we have just witnessed is not humour, it is cruelty. He paused, letting the words sink in, and it is based on a profound ignorance. He then turned and pointed at me, his gesture deliberate and respectful. This woman, Matilda Wilkins, most of you know her as Mattie Sophia's mother. He scanned the crowd, his eyes resting for a moment on the stunned faces of the Tate family. What you do not know is that she is the artisan behind Mattie's morning glory jams and pastries. The very same small batch preserves the exquisite marmalades and the shortbread that are served in the signature breakfast baskets of every one of my 12 Henderson House boutique hotels across New England. A collective gasp rippled through the room, followed by an explosion of whispers. Eleanor Tate's hand flew to her throat. Richard's face went slack. Cameron looked like he'd been struck. Jacob continued, his voice rising slightly over the murmurs. 3 years ago, I stumbled upon a jar of wild blueberry lavender jam at a farmer's market in Bar Harbor. It was a revelation. The balance, the depth of flavour, the evident care. I had to find the maker. It took me months of inquiries. When I finally tracked Mattie down, I offered her a contract on the spot. She had one condition: anonymity. She did not want a spotlight. She wanted to ensure the quality remained, that it remained her work, her hands. She stipulated her products be distributed through a small local supplier to maintain that standard. I agreed because true artistry is rare. I pay a significant premium for her goods because they are without question the finest I have ever tasted. He looked directly at Cameron now. You wanted to make a spectacle of her humble work, Cameron. You called it homey. I call it the gold standard. The guests in my hotels who pay $1,000 a night call it the highlight of their morning. You poured waste on a woman whose craft is sought after by people who understand true quality. The poverty you tried to mock exists only in your own perception. The room was utterly, completely silent again, but this was a different silence. It was charged with awe, with dawning understanding, and with a sharp, collective judgment aimed squarely at the groom. The spell broke with the sound of a single pair of hands clapping, slow, steady. It was my sister Brenda standing tall, tears streaming down her face. Then Frank joined in a thunderous applause. Then others, Sophia's college friends, some of the older guests began to clap. It wasn't a celebratory applause. It was solid, percussive, a sound of vindication. Sophia moved. She walked her gown swishing down from the dais. She didn't even glance at Cameron. she came to me, her own tears falling freely. Wordlessly, she untied the silk sash from her waist, a pale creamy colour, and knelt down. She began to gently blot the mess from my shoes and my dress hem with it. The symbolic gesture was so powerful, so damning, that the last of the whispers died. Then she stood, took my cold hands in hers, and turned to face Cameron. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear and carried through the quiet. "You have humiliated the woman who gave me everything, the woman who taught me what real strength and integrity look like. You showed me exactly who you are today, and I will not be a part of it." She looked at the pastor, then at the crowd. "This wedding is over." Pandemonium threatened to break out. Cameron finally found his voice, panicked. "Sophia, baby, wait! It was a joke, a stupid joke. Uncle Jake, come on, tell them. It was just a joke." Jacob Henderson's expression was icy. "The only joke here, Cameron, is the one you've made of yourself, and our business dealings will be reviewed accordingly." I finally spoke. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "Sophia, my dear," I squeezed her hand. "You do not have to choose, but I will not stand here for another second." I looked at Cameron, at his parents' ashen faces. "You wanted to show everyone where I come from. Now they know. I come from hard work, from honesty, and from a love that would never, ever do this to another person. You have shown everyone where you come from, and it is a very, very poor place." With that, holding my daughter's hand with Brenda and Frank flanking us, I walked out of that beautiful ballroom. We left behind the towering, untouched wedding cake, the stunned guests, and the shattered remains of a marriage that never truly was. We ended up in a small, private sitting room reserved for the bridal party, the door shut, muffling the distant sounds of chaos from the main hall. Sophia collapsed into a chair, her body racked with sobs. The elegant facade was gone, replaced by a raw, wounded young woman. "I'm so sorry, Mum. I'm so sorry. I saw how he was. I saw the little comments, the way he looked down on everything from home. I ignored it. I thought it was just nerves or him wanting everything to be perfect. I'm such a fool." Her words tumbled out between gulps of air. I knelt before her, my own dress ruined, and held her. "Shh, it's not your fault. You loved him. You saw the best in him. That's not a flaw, baby. That's who you are." "But I didn't protect you," she cried. "I just stood there. I was frozen. I was so ashamed. For him, for me, for us." "You were in shock," I said, stroking her hair. "We both were." A quiet knock interrupted us. Jacob Henderson entered, followed by a solemn-looking Richard Tate. Eleanor was nowhere to be seen. "Mattie, Sophia," Jacob began, his voice gentle now. "First, please accept my deepest apologies. My discretion, which you requested, allowed that scene to happen. I should have found a way to honour your work without letting you be a target." "It's not your responsibility, Mr. Henderson," I said, standing up. "Jacob, please. And I must amend that. Effective immediately, our contract is up for renewal. I want Mattie's morning glory featured by name. I want your story, the real story of the artisan in our hotel literature, and I am prepared to increase my offer by 40%. Richard Tate stepped forward, his demeanour a poor imitation of contrition. "Mattie, Sophia, this is regrettable. A terrible misunderstanding. Cameron is young, impulsive. We can work this out. For the sake of the families, for the business relationships." His eyes darted to Jacob. I looked at him, this man who had barely acknowledged me all day. "There is no working this out, Richard. Your son didn't misunderstand. He understood perfectly. He thought he could belittle me without consequence. He was wrong. As for business, that is between you and Jacob." Jacob gave a curt nod to Richard. "We will talk next week, in my office." The dismissal was clear. Richard, defeated and pale, left without another word. Sophia wiped her eyes, a new determination settling on her features. She looked at me, then at Jacob. "Mum, you should do it. The new contract. You deserve it. And I need some time." I'm putting my condo in Boston on the market. I think I need to come home for a while." In the midst of the ruin, a fragile new seed was planted. The drive back to my small house in the quiet town of Elmsford was long and mostly silent. The adrenaline had drained, leaving a hollow exhaustion. For days, I moved through my familiar kitchen like a ghost. The memory of the spilled bucket, the laughter, the feeling of that cold water played on a loop. The humiliation burned, but underneath it a new feeling was stirring, a slow, steady anger that was less about the act and more about the lifetime of minimizing myself that had led me to that moment. But the world had other plans. My sister Brenda, bless her, had told her entire church group. My neighbour Gertrude posted a carefully worded but furious account on the town's Facebook page. The story spread, morphing into a modern-day fable of the humble artisan and the arrogant groom. My phone started ringing, not with pity, but with orders. Dozens of them. "We want to support you, Matty. Can I get 6 jars of the peach ginger? My book club wants to place a bulk order." Then a local newspaper reporter called, then a regional food blog. Jacob Henderson was true to his word. A beautifully photographed feature on The Secret Jam Lady of Maine appeared in a high-end travel magazine naming me and my business. Sophia came home, suitcases and boxes filling the spare room. She set up a laptop at my kitchen table. She used her legal mind not for corporate mergers, but for creating a proper website, a shipping system, and negotiating the fine print of Jacob's new contract. We talked for hours, not just about what happened, but about my dreams for the business, her dreams for a life that felt authentic. We rediscovered each other not as mother and child in the old dynamic, but as two women, both a little battered building something new. One afternoon, as I was labelling jars now with beautiful new labels Sophia designed, featuring a small morning glory vine, I realised something. I had spent a lifetime calling this a little hobby, a side thing. I had baked my worth into goods I gave away too cheaply and apologised for. Cameron's cruelty had violently ripped off that veil. He had tried to show the world a woman who was less than. Instead, he forced me and everyone else to see the truth. I was an artist. My medium was fruit and sugar and time. My creations brought people joy, and that was not small. That was everything. It is autumn now, a few months since that day. The maple tree outside my kitchen window is a blaze of fire. The scent of apple cinnamon butter fills the house. Sophia is on the phone calmly explaining our fulfillment timeline to a new hotel client in Vermont. She has decided to stay to be my partner in this expanding venture. There is a light in her eyes that wasn't there before, a steadiness. She is healing. We both are. The legal dissolution of the engagement was swift and quiet. I heard through the grapevine that Cameron left his father's firm. The Tate family's social standing, I am told, has not fared well. I do not take pleasure in that. I feel only a distant pity. What I learned is this: no one can truly humiliate you without your permission. They can throw dirt, they can pour waste, they can laugh. But your worth is not held in their hands. It is baked into your very being, into every honest effort, into every act of love, into every jar sealed with care. That day, Cameron didn't show my poverty. He showed his own, a poverty of character, of empathy, of soul. And in the quiet that followed his cruelty, I found a voice I never knew I had. Sometimes the most powerful action is not a scream, but a silent, steady standing of your ground. And sometimes the greatest blessings, a deeper bond with my daughter, the recognition of my own gift, a thriving business come disguised in the messiest of buckets. The wedding cake was never cut. But Sophia and I, we have been tasting a sweeter, truer kind of happiness ever since. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What treasures are hiding in plain sight in your own life, waiting to be recognized? What quiet strength do you have that the world hasn't seen yet? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story of finding strength in the hardest moments resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know these shared experiences matter. And if you want to join me for more real stories about life, love, and picking up the pieces, consider subscribing and sharing this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening, and remember, no matter what gets poured in your path, your true value can never be washed away.